Assalamu alaikum. Today we continue with the marks for the state of nasab. This here, the word nasab and nasab, lin-nasbi. So we said we have 5 marks. وللنصب 5 علامات. We talked about fatha. We talked about the alif when used as a mark. We talked about the kasra. We talked about the ya when used as a mark for the state of nasab. Today we will talk about حذف النون, omission of the noon. This حذف here means to throw out. In this context, omission of the noon, this n here. This is the letter n. Its name is noon, النون. So فأما الفتحة فتكون علامة للنصب في 3 مواضع. We learned that the fatha, this here fatha. So this here is a fatha. It will be a mark for the state of nasb in 3 places. في الاسم المفرد, we talked about that. في جمع التكسير, this here is the singular noun. جمع التكسير is the broken plural. And the present tense, إذا دخل عليه ناصب. If the tools that cause it to go into that state for the present tense is there, then this verb will go into that state. So إذا دخل عليه ناصب, if a ناصب entered on it or is attached to it, came before it. ولم يتصل بآخره شيء, and nothing else is attached to that verb, the present tense. So وأما الألف فتكون علامة للنصب في الأسماء الخمسة. The alif, we talked about the alif, this one here, and the 5 nouns. نحو رأيت أباك وأخاك وما أشبه ذلك. We learned what the 5 nouns are, and we saw how that alif is used there. وأما الكسرة, so the kasra, this here is the kasra. فتكون علامة للنصب في جمع المؤنث السالم. This kasra is used to indicate the state of nasb only with the sound feminine plural. جمع المؤنث السالم. جمع is plural, مؤنث feminine, salim is sound. So the sound feminine plural, that's how you show it's that state. This is an exception because this is used to indicate another state, this kasra, but it's an exception for the sound feminine plural. وأما الياء فتكون علامة للنصب في التثنية والجمع. We talked about this last time. This ya here, this is a ya, this word في, and in the middle of the word it will be like this, 2 dots. So you will have ya here. So this here will indicate that state of nasb in the دول, تثنية, والجمع. وأما حذف النون, this here is the omission of the noon. This is what we will talk about today. حذف النون. So the omission of the noon is used as a mark to indicate that state. فيكون علامة للنصب في الأفعال الخمسة. Today we will see these 5 verbs. That's what they call them, the 5 verbs. In other books they call them الأمثلة الخمسة, the 5 examples. We will see what these are. So with these 5 verbs, you will see the noon here at the end of the verb omitted where you should see it. We talked about the n, keeping the n with the verb to indicate that state of rafa before. We will see examples. Now omitting that n is used as a mark. التي رفعها, which is raised by keeping ثبات النون. ثبات is steadfast or stay there or fixed. So that's what ثبات النون. By keeping the noon there, that's how you show its state of being raised, الرفع. By omitting that noon, we show the state of that present tense verb to be in the state of nasb. So this is the 5th mark to indicate the state of nasb. It's used with verbs. Now it's important here to Remember this N here, omitting of the N or keeping the N with the verbs in here to indicate that state. Here we look at examples. Notice here, these examples are from الدروس النحوية للمدارس الابتدائية. This book here, you will see the link for it in the description. This is an example. So this would be page 14 in that book, number 14. So in here, we saw before, we covered the N as a mark to show that the verb is in the state of being raised. So here they use the verb يكتب or write, he writes. So here, if you're talking about two persons, you say يكتبان. Notice this N here, you can see it there with the verb يكتب. So this A here, we said before, with the verb, it indicates the pronoun of the subject pronoun. With nouns, it's just a mark for the state of the noun in the sentence. So with verbs, it's a pronoun for the dual. Here, يكتبان. So this N here is used with the verb present tense to indicate its state as a mark. So وأنتما تكتبان, you both write. تكتبان, you notice this N. Or the waw used for the plural, masculine plural. So يكتبون. This wa here is a pronoun with the verb. With the noun, it's just a mark for the state of that noun. With the verbs, a present tense verb, it's a pronoun. This is the subject pronoun with the verb. So يكتبون, they write. A group of men or boys. يكتبون. Notice this N indicates the verb is in the state of being raised. Now, تكتبون, you write. Same thing. A masculine group, you write. تكتبون, this N is there. Or the second person, feminine singular. So, أنت تكتبين, you write. You're talking to one girl or a woman, and you say you write in the present tense. Notice this ya here, that's the pronoun for the second person singular feminine, تكتبين, this ya here. This N here indicates that this verb, the present tense verb, is in the state of being raised. So that's the 5 verbs they talk about. Notice what they say is it's the same verb, any verb, if it takes these pronouns, the dual, and the masculine plural, or the second person feminine singular. These are the 5 verbs. If you count them with the second person feminine singular, just one girl or woman, you get this ya here. So that's 1. This wa here with 2. The third person, يكتبون. Notice this is the present tense letter for the third person. تكتبون. This is the ta for the second person with the present tense. It's a present tense letter for the second person. So you get 2 here. You take the same verb and you get 5 of verbs because of the different pronouns attached to its end. So this here 1, 2. With the dual, same thing. يكتبان, meaning a third person, 2 person, and the third sense. They write, they both write, or the second person, تكتبان. So that's your clue there, the present tense letters. ta for the dual, ta for the masculine plural, and the ta for the singular second person feminine, تكتبين. So notice here you have the N there, which means the verb, there is nothing causing this verb to take another state other than رفع, being raised. So we covered this before. Now notice what happened to it. Same verb, يكتب, but you lost the N there. Why? Because of this لن here. لن means will not or will never. So most of the time probably will be will not, That's how you understand it, but it implies never, so len. It's not going to happen. So you can think of it any way you want. I think will not is mostly how probably the closest interpretation for it. So will not write. They both will not write. لن يكتبا. لن يكتبا. Notice they lost the n there. It's omitted. So when you see no n there with the present tense, but you see this pronoun, remember the a with a verb, present tense verb, is a pronoun. ولن تكتبا. Notice the pronoun a. There is no an. It omitted. Because of what? Because of this len here. So len here is one of the tools or letters that come before the present tense verb and cause it to go into that state of nasb. If it's in the dual case, it means the subject pronouns is a, should have an after it. It's omitted because of this len here. Same thing with the masculine plural, len. Notice لن يكتبوا, third person. Now here the second person, notice this ta. We said the ta is used for the second person and it's also used for the third person singular feminine. And the dual in this case. So لن تكتبا, it can mean the two girls in the third person, both of them will not write. لن تكتبا. So here لن تكتبا, this ta is, we talked about this, it's used with the third person feminine with the present tense. So and it's also used with the second person. With the dual, it doesn't make a difference if it's a feminine or a masculine. It's you get the same pronoun, this a here. So لن تكتبا, it could mean two girls that are absent, they will not write, or the third person, you're talking about girls in the third person, two girls, you say لن تكتبا, the two girls will not write. And if you're talking to two person masculine, you say لن تكتبا, or feminine, you say لن تكتبا. So context will decide which one is it. But notice it's the same word there, or verb used. لن تكتبا. لن يكتبوا, they will not write, masculine plural. They have this a here added to verb to distinguish it from other words. So this is here just a mark that has no function other than when you see it written, you don't pronounce it. It's not pronounced. It's just a mark to indicate that this is not separate. This here is the plural, the wa for the plural. It's not part of this word or verb. So we will talk about this later. Just recognize this, that this is not, it has no function other than to tell you this has a pronoun attached to it. It's not the wa original with the word. It's a wa that is indicating a pronoun and it's not part of the verb. So once you see this, you know this wa before it is a pronoun. ولن تكتبوا, also second person here. You see this len. And you lost this n there. Here and there you lost that n. So that's our mark here. So when you look at text like this, you recognize this is a verb. I know this verb, but I see no n there. This is a present tense. There is no, so this verb must be in the state of nasb, meaning it has some of these letters. Now, there are other letters that cause it to lose that n too, and the reason they distinguish between nasb and the other state is called jazm, meaning there is no movement on the consonant at the end. So when it's the dual or the masculine plural, they lose the n too. There is a reason why they distinguish between the two, because of the letters used. And the effect these would have on verbs, present tense verbs, that are not using these subject pronouns. They're using other pronouns. So That's why they distinguish between them. But for you now, if you cannot distinguish between them, just know there are other cases other than the state of nasb that you will lose that n in it. For now, we'll just cover this one letter. There's other letters that cause it to go to nasb too. But for now, just recognize this. You will lose the n with the present tense verb because of some reason. If that's all you get for now, it's good at this level. We will talk about these other tools later. So let's look at an example from this book here. This here, قواعد اللغة العربية. The author is الإبراشي. I will leave the link in the description. I think it's in the description already. If not, I'll just add it. So here we have different verbs. We talked about these before. Notice the n there with the present tense. يذهبون for the third person. تعلمون for the second person. U. So this is your subject pronoun, this u here, indicating masculine plural. This n is there, indicating there is nothing to cause this verb to change or lose this n here. So that's your mark there for the state of رفع, raised. البنتان تزرعان, second person or third person. This here is the third person for the two girls are planting flowers. So this is for the third person, but it can be used for the second person for the dual. So let me just mark the pronoun here. So this here is the dual pronoun for two, masculine or feminine, second person or third person. Here it's the third person for the two girls. So that's too much detail I should not go into, but now just recognize this as the pronoun with this present tense. You see the an, that means it's in state of رفع, raised. الجنديان يسهران. This is the dual pronoun a. The two soldiers stay awake. This ya here is for the present tense. You can see the an there. أنت تحسنين. This here the second person. You see this ya here is the pronoun for the second person feminine singular. أنت تحسنين. You are good with the Arabic language. So that's the pronoun here. أنت. Second person singular feminine. Now see how they change in here. Notice they're using the same verbs here. But notice what happened, each verb, present tense verb, lost its n. There is no n. Notice here with the masculine plural, they showed this a there. This is your mark that this wa is the pronoun with this verb. Here, لن تعلموا, you see this a there. Now the n is not there. So that's the example there. Because of what? Notice this len there. Len. It came before the present tense, and the mark here is omitting the n. الجنديان لن يسهرا. They will not stay up or stay awake this night tonight in guarding or in their guarding duty. So لن يسهرا. Notice it lost that n. So here this is the pronoun, the dual pronoun. البنتان لن تزرعا. Notice the two girls will not plant the flowers in the field. Notice the n is lost. This is the dual pronoun. أنت لن تحسني اللغة. Here أنت لن. Notice لن تحسني. The end at the end of this present tense lost. This ya here is the pronoun for the second person singular feminine with the present tense verb. So this here you see there is no n. You will not be good at the Arabic language unless you keep reading. So that's the sentence. So that's the fifth mark to indicate the state of nasb. Now you can see when you look at the text, sometimes you see the n there after the present tense, and sometimes you don't see it. Now you know there is a change that happened that caused it to disappear or to stay. So here, this is one of the tools that caused that to happen. Next time, inshallah, we will cover the marks to indicate another state, the state of lowering the end or jar, which means dragging, which is two different names for the same thing, which is lowering the end of a noun. See you next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.